Put your wings right here. We're going to make them go forward and back. And forward and back. One more time. Forward and back. And then he said, squawk, 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 squawk. And then he thought, if I'm going to learn to fly, I've got to exercise my legs too. So let's stick out one foot and let's scrape it in the dirt. Scrape it just like that. Working on that quadricep muscle right here. Let's do the other side. Scrape it in the dirt. Good job. And then what did he say? Squawk, 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 squawk. And then he had an idea. He thought maybe if I reach all the way down to the ground, and then all the way up as high as I can, reach, baby, I can fly. Try it one more time. Go all the way down, and all the way up, and reach. But he still couldn't fly. So then he thought maybe if I run in place right now. But he still couldn't fly, and he was so disappointed, so he sat down in the dirt. I'll make y'all sit in the dirt. He sat down in the dirt, and he was so disappointed, and do you know why that big bird couldn't fly? Because he was a turkey. Turkeys fly. Turkeys don't fly. What do they say? Gobble, 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 gobble. Okay, are you warmed up a little bit? All right, you can have a seat. That's one of our warm-ups. That's kind of how it goes, stretch and go. And then we get into all kind of cardiovascular endurance and strength training and all kind of stuff. I want to talk to you just a little bit about the current statistics, and I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of boring statistics, but you know, over the past several decades that the obesity statistics in our country have done nothing but get higher and higher, get worse and worse. Over the past few years, we've seen a lot in the news, on TV, on the internet, and papers about everything that we're doing to try to combat this. There are programs, new programs popping up all the time to try to help with this. So you would think that surely that things are getting a little bit better. Unfortunately, the newest statistics that have just come out show that things have not gotten any better. As a matter of fact, they're a little bit worse. So it's really disheartening, and just, you know, it's making a lot of people think, what do we do? What do we do? I mean, we're trying to do these things. And in my opinion, it's going to take a little bit from each person. And it's not something that's going to happen quickly, in my opinion, but it's going to take all of us. We've all got to do our part. But anyway, it has gotten a little bit worse. The thing that they are using as the defining criteria is the BMI. BMI, or body mass index, is an indicator of overweight and obesity. A BMI of 30 or greater is you're considered obese. If you have a BMI of 30 or greater, if it's 25 or more, that's considered overweight. And there was only one state that had 20% or less of their population that was obese, and that was Colorado. 32 states out of all the states had at least 25% of their population was obese. And 8 of those states had 30% or more. And those 8 states are all in the South. It's Alabama, Mississippi, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, and West Virginia. And guess who leads the way? Mississippi. We are the most obese states in the nation. We're at the top of the list for type 2 diabetes. I mean, it's a problem everywhere in the country, but it's the biggest problem here. So that's just to show that we've got to do more. We've got to do more. We've been doing some things over the past few years, but it's not good enough. Mississippi, by the way, leads the way with 32.8%. 32.8% of our population is obese. That's not overweight, that's obese. That's BMI of 30 or more. And a lot of people don't really understand obese. I mean, even if you hear that BMI of 30 or more is obese, they don't really understand what that means. A lot of people know that they're overweight, but they don't really think that they're obese. And so, I mean, I've had, people who've seen their papers that, when they come to see me, they might, accidentally see something I've written on their paper, and they'll see that it says obese, or they'll see when they get their paper back and it's got a code, if they're giving it to their insurance company for reimbursement, you have to put the correct codes on there, and they'll see that on there, and they're just shocked. I mean, they don't really think that they fall into that category. but it's so prevalent where we live. It's everywhere. I mean, a lot of people don't even really think that they're any different because they're not. I mean, they just kind of blend in. But anyway, whether they're comfortable with the way they look or not is really not the issue. It's all these complications, health complications that can happen because of that. And children who are overweight and obese are very, very likely to grow into obese adults. Health complications, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, sleep apnea, asthma, all those things are related. And some statistics show that 80% of children who are overweight at age 10 to 15 were obese adults at age 25. 25% of obese adults were overweight as children. And if the overweight begins before the age of 8, the obesity in adulthood is likely to be much more severe. So, it needs to start early. It needs to start early, and that's what I focus almost all of my efforts on with what I do. It's got to start early. We've got to train them early, and they only do what they're told to do and what they see. So we've got to do that. So let's talk about some of the things that contribute to these statistics. A lot of people want to think that genetics has a lot to do with it. Genetics can play a part in it. If you're in a family that's predisposed to obesity, that can play a part, but it's a small part of it. It's a small percentage. The behavioral factors play a much larger part in that. One of the biggest things is just too many calories. I mean, we're just taking in too many calories. Portion sizes are through the roof. People don't really know what a portion size should be because our idea of what a portion is so distorted because of what we see everywhere. I mean, on billboards and restaurants. I mean, restaurants don't even serve food on plates anymore. They serve it on platters. And people just think, well, that was one order. I just ordered it to go for one person. It didn't say for two on the menu. So they think, that must be what I need. When it's at least 2 meals. In most cases, it's more than 2 meals. So anyway, I mean, we simply eat too much food. And we don't notice that we do that. We don't pay attention when we eat. You have to be conscious and pay attention to what you eat. Like you do with anything in life. If you don't pay attention to it and know what you're doing and plan it, you're not going to be successful with it, whether it's some project at work or a project at home or whatever you're working on. If you don't pay close attention to it, you're not going to be successful. And people don't do that with food. They just take eating for granted. Just something you got to do to live, and they just eat and they don't think about it. Eating away from home, people eat out so much. We're all busy. We're all, playing taxi and taking kids here and there, and doing all these things. So we're really busy, and we just eat on the go. And although there are some healthy things at restaurants, even fast food restaurants, when you're in that big a hurry, a lot of people don't stop and think about it. They just grab something. They don't stop to think about how many calories is in what, and they know that there are better things, but it's just, it's in the back of their mind. It's not what they're focused on right now. They're just focused on getting something in themselves and in their kids and getting to the ballpark or whatever. So eating away from home, you're going to take in a lot more calories in most all cases when you do that. Snacking, high-calorie snacks, we just take in way too many calories in snacking. And we don't have specific times for snacks. And timing and scheduling is something that is critical. With any client I see, I really, really, really stress scheduling and timing of meals and of snacks, and for ourselves and for our children. And our children are going to eat when we tell them they can eat and what we tell them they can eat. And I see parents all the time who they just don't set rules. I mean, you have rules in your house for most everything. You got to have rules in your house for food too. These are the times that you eat. You give them what they need and how much they eat at those times. And then they get snacks. I mean, snacks are good. I recommend those highly. But you only get snacks at snack time. And my kids at my house know that they don't go in the pantry until it's snack time. And even when it's snack time, they still have to come ask to make sure I know that's where they're going. But they have to learn what to expect. But so many parents just don't do that. I mean, there's just food, there's junk food all over the house, and the kids can just have it whenever they want, and they do it. And a lot of parents don't really realize that that's such a contributing factor.